I don't pay for anything. No, because I did some work for a builder, and he paid for my deck. My composite, there's 52 boards, and then there's 25 of the base, the cladding they call it. Yeah. $7,000.
All right, if I can get a motion to come out of recess for our committee of the whole meeting.
Motion to come out of recess.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Lundin and a second from Councilman Merrill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Let's see, we are gonna move on. We have, our next item was the EDA board membership. And I think, was Luke, this is
Yep.
yours? Okay.
So I had brought this up, and we've kind of briefly touched on it. I guess me as a council member and a member of the community, I'm not really totally happy about having the same 5 that are on council also on EDA, because I think that puts too much power in the hands of city council. We've seen it in the past where projects are just pushed through, basically have no check and balance. If it goes to the EDA and is approved through the EDA, the same people vote on it for council. So there's literally nobody that can outnumber the council on a vote, which I think is dangerous, and I think that's what kicked us in the rear on that hotel project. And I never want that to happen again. I think the government needs checks and balances. So I'm proposing that we, next year, we consider choosing 3 people from council to be on that, and then having 4 people that aren't on council. So the majority is still the public and not the city council, because then you can get in, you kind of have a check and balance on the system versus just a monopoly on both boards. Now, I don't know how we would do that. I suppose just during committee selection, we could just say, hey, who wants to be on EDA, or we could vote for those 3 members, and then I'm very confident that we could find 2 people to fill.
I don't know what you're gonna say,
Yeah,
but
go
I was
ahead,
gonna
go
say,
ahead.
EDA was not structured this way when the hotel projects came through. It was 2 members of council were on EDA at that time, right?
It's not what I was told in
That I
that one
can't
meeting.
speak to at this moment.
I asked about that.
No, it was.
It was
wa-
2?
It was just 2 members at that time.
Yeah.
Because I think all the committees, planning, and everything was like that, right?
Yep.
Where it was 2
Yep.
members of council?
Yeah,
I was told it changed right around that time
It
by
was
Josie
after
in a
that.
meeting, okay.
and also that, I'm not trying to pound my chest, but if I would've been here, I was gone on vacation, it was pushed down the council's throat to have that happen.
No, I know it
And I
was.
was dead set against it the whole time.
Well, yeah,
And that was just like the annexation, the same thing, that same thing came, it was pushed down the council's throat at that time. That's where the problem comes from. Any of those boards, EDA, Planning Commission, is an advisory board. So with this, all of us being up here on the EDA and a Planning Commission, we are more well-informed of what's going on rather than.
that's true.
So I do want to caution you on that. Now, we're getting firsthand knowledge of what's coming through on EDA, Planning Commission, everything. If you want to add another, say, a business, which I feel economic development, even Planning Commission, I think there should, just because you have a business in town and don't live in town, you should not be held. You should be allowed to be on these boards. It does affect their business. I don't disagree with that. I think that all of us should be on here because we're more well-informed. We don't, we do have other people that speak on both halves on each side of this. So, if you want to take out what they have under advisement, that's entirely up to you. And then when it comes to council, we make that decision at council. We're more well-informed of what's happening at that point.
I'm against it on multiple levels too. For one, if you're given the majority of the public to vote on money, then they should be elected officials because it's people's money and we're, appointed or elected to represent them. And the council would be the ones appointing them. So, and the other reason is, as council members, we're all here, and if we have an EDA meeting, 2 people would be sitting out, or 1 person, however it's structured, and that, I don't think that's good use of our time either, since we have the final say on almost everything anyway.
I guess,
Stephanie was gonna make a point after Luke was done talking there.
So we do have to follow state statute. There are a couple things to consider. It's in our city ordinance, so we'd have to have an ordinance amendment. It's not just the resolution at the beginning of the year, so we'd have to do that. We need to stagger terms. It's 6-year terms right now for the 2 people that we have, but we'd want to stagger them so that, right? Yeah, he looked at me. I was
It would
like-
be very similar to what we did with Park Board, adding those members.
Yeah,
We'd have
so
to
at
stay-
different terms. So we'd have to follow statute, which clearly outlines like how many members and like the different numbers, similar to what Park Board did. So we'd have to follow those guidelines as well. So just keeping all of that in mind.
What if we were to add 2 more? So what I want to see is more involvement from the community in these meetings, because right now we have 5 of the 7 of us are the same people that are making decisions all the time. We don't really hear, I mean, we hear from people, but it would be nice to have 1 or 2 more. Like, then if you're missing somebody too, or say if you're missing both the people on the ends for one meeting, then it's not just us with just our own opinions.
Yeah, and it is, it's about, I would say, in my opinion, 50-50 for cities that have EDA boards that are all council, and 50% that have, 2 members on the EDA board. The planning commission is less common, so I'll state that. But the EDA board, it is more common for that to be made up of council because of the money decisions being made. But also, there is a lot of checks and balances with the EDA board, because not only, so the EDA board will put together a subsidy, and you would go through with that agreement, just saying as an example. But the development agreement that the city enters with goes through the council. So there's usually 2 sides to every transaction, like a city side and an EDA side in most cases, just depending on what the scenario is.
Oh, but wouldn't you argue that the park board is the same exact layout? Because the park board can say, hey, we're gonna spend $400,000 on a playground. EDA could say the same thing, but it still comes to council.
No, not for EDA money. That does not have to go to council.
It doesn't have to be approved through
No.
council at all? Okay, I guess we haven't done a whole lot with that money, so.
We have approved land sales, and that's one way we are offering a subsidy. We always come back with the development agreement part because of the city infrastructure involved, but that has nothing to do with the subsidy agreement. So the
Okay.
money
And that
part
was
is
part of
just-
the concern that I had, was that you have some leeway on EDA to kind of do its own thing. Well,
Okay.
that concerns me, to not have the council on board with that when, so you're having appointed people making some of those decisions. And I think
Sure.
there's a lot of bad ideas as far as government growth that incubates in the EDA. And I think having some people that are accountable, that are elected accountable, that have to answer for those decisions, I think is probably a good idea.
I think a way to get maybe better quality people on the EDA board is up the pay on it. And if you want more of an opinion, maybe make it 1-year terms. And 3 months before that term is up, take applications again, and the person that's on the board could also apply again.
I don't,
And that way we keep it full, but I know we
I
would
don't
have to
think we
change.
can, I don't think we can do 1-year terms. I think there's they have set terms by statute.
Oh,
like a
by
number
state
of years.
statute.
I would, yes, and why so you don't have a whole new EDA
Okay.
board every year.
I don't,
Because it's a lot of training.
I don't disagree with Council Merrill.
We could reduce
Is,
it.
it would be nice to have a business representative, even if they don't live in town, but I don't know if we can or cannot do
We
that.
already do
Mm-hmm.
allow that, actually.
And I think we should maybe reach out.
Right. Add
That's
one,
right.
add one more person maybe?
You have to add 2, because you
Or
have to be
2.
odd. Right?
Yes, it has to be an uneven number.
It has to be, huh?
Has to be uneven, yes. It has to always, it always has to be odd.
But we can
That's just
have,
like a quorum.
Oh,
You got
right.
to have a
So
quorum,
that's
has
why
to be an
the-
odd number.
the
but a
park
quorum
board
can
was
be
the
an
same
even
way.
number, so if we have.
No.
A quorum can be 4.
A minimum quorum has to be an odd number.
Yeah, but you can so say for us on council right now, there's 5, the quorum is 3, but you can have 4, so
Yes,
so on an
but
even,
you- but-
that's still an even number, so you could still have a tiebreaker, so.
But you still have to have that, you have to set your minimum as 3. You can't set it at 4, you have to set it.
Right.
Okay, well, maybe, I wouldn't be opposed to adding 2 more. It's just more input, I think, from people that can't vote. I mean, business owners can't vote for city council, and I think that stinks, But maybe they can have their voice here, or I don't know.
Then you water down the council.
You do, but the council's still the majority.
I suppose we have 9 mics, we could squeeze it in.
I don't know, it's just an idea, we don't have to do anything with it, it just makes me uneasy, like, if we get a huge changeover in council, and then all of a sudden, now one group of people is responsible for every dollar that goes through the city, basically.
Yeah, but the council members are elected at least.
Right, true.
But then we appoint board members.
Yeah.
Just have to vet them good. And which is really hard because we get so few volunteers.
Well, that's what I was
you
gonna
know,
say, is
usually
so
you come
often
in.
that people come in, and if they apply, they get the
Right.
position, so we don't,
Exactly.
Yes, none of you were here, and I can't remember if it was planning commission or it was the EDA. We had somebody from outside the county that was on that board, and I can't remember if it was EDA or planning commission, that was so long ago.
I'm sure it was EDA. Planning Commission, it's less common.
Yep.
Oftentimes, they have an at-large, non-voting member who's invited from townships that are neighboring. That happens in some cities for
Mm-hmm. Yep,
planning.
that's what it was the EDA then, it was, David England used to manage the hockey arena. He was on the EDA, because he just lives just across the other side of the river, so. It was, and that wasn't bad.
It has to be a 6-year term. So by state statute, all terms have to be 6 years after. We can
Really?
do a staggered, like if we add 2 more.
That
we
can't
might
be
able to
right.
stagger. It says it right here.
When I was appointed to EDA, I had like 3 months before George Wimmer figured out how to get me out, and that wasn't 6
Because you
years.
were only appointed till that term was over.
So it's
that's
not
why.
6 years.
But you were only you were
The end of that
appointed.
term.
You were filling a seat. That term was up. That's how it happened.
are they 6-year terms now, when we appoint them?
Yeah.
That is way too long, that
Long
doesn't work,
time.
that
No
doesn't
idea
work.
they were 6
That needs to be
years.
like 2 years.
That's what it's state statute. We
I
have to
don't
change
believe
it.
that. 6 years, there's no way.
It says literally a 7-member authority, the commissioners constituting a 7-member authority or a 5-year authority is the same. 2 of whom must be members of the council for a 7-year or 5-member or 7. Shall be appointed by the mayor with the approval of the city council. Those initially appointed shall be appointed for terms of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 years respectively, and 2 members for 6 years. Thereafter, all commissioners shall be appointed for 6-year terms.
But we're only elected to 4-year terms.
Right. That's what I was just gonna say.
That math ain't
Years
mathing.
is a very long time.
Which
Yeah,
then
it's
your
too long.
seat is your seat, it
Too
turns
long.
over, so that person's continuing your term.
2-year term?
Can-
Okay.
So it's
They have the remaining
different
2
for the
years.
council members
Yeah.
than everybody
Can you
else.
send me that state statute and
I
let me
don't-
look it over?
There's gotta be some other thing going on there.
I wanna look into this.
It's
a
common,
little
we
more.
look, I
Doesn't
mean,
sound
that's what
right.
it was in Princeton also, so I just,
I agree.
I trust you.
Something doesn't- I trust her, but something seems
Something
off.
seems off.
Mike, was there something,
just seems-
you look like you wanted to say something a little bit ago.
I was gonna say is, so the EDA board can take some actions, but in the end, a lot of what they're gonna do is going to be limited by the council. So, don't forget, for example, we could be in a situation, all right, so I'll just speak to like actual things that have actually happened. In Granite Falls, EDA board was super active. One of the things they got to do, and we had a lot, was hand out loans. That worked out really well. There were lots of people that wanted to serve on that because they could actually do a thing, right? They could do something as a board without council approval. She brings up the subsidies. But also remember is that selling somebody land for $1 without a development agreement isn't actually gonna happen. Also remember is, council, you guys set the EDA budget. And it is a binding thing, right? The EDA board doesn't get to go in and be like, oh, you gave us 134,000, scratch that, 500,000. Like, that's not how that works. So there are things that will limit an EDA board and prevent them from just going roughshod through everything.
yeah, the powers are limited by the council, so if you,
If it's actually 6 years, I'm opposed to taking anybody off council off to replace them with a 6-year term. So I guess we'll have to dig into that because I'm not comfortable with 6 years for anybody without, especially appointment. That seems crazy. I've never heard of that in the city, and I've been on both, separate from council, so.
So what do we got left here?
Anybody want to keep arguing Luke's point, or no?
Nope.
No?
No,
All right. Sounds good, we'll move on.
I would like to look into that 6 year thing though. If you can send that to us. Yeah, there's gotta be some caveat there, cause that seems crazy.
All right, the next item,
Rodeo.
rodeo, okay, yep, that's the last one. Nice. Yeah, so this is one I asked to bring up, so, Jeff, you can correct me here if I'm wrong on anything, but, so the fire department right now would like to buy a, storage container from Auto City Classics down there, or yeah, shipping container, sorry. And it's like one of those, I think it's 42 feet long, and it's got the side doors. You guys have probably seen them out there on 65. So
It's not there now.
it's not there now, but it was,
there
yeah.
today?
Yeah.
Oh, it was there yesterday.
Grass is dead underneath and it's gone.
But anyway, that's what we're looking to buy. I think they can get more if they already sold that one, but they would like to, currently there's 2 shipping containers there already that are being used for storage, right, on the rodeo grounds property.
So there's a pole shed in the grass parking lot, right next to the creek. And then there's, it looks like an old refrigeration trailer that's sitting on the ground. That, they want to replace that with a new shipping container because it's falling apart. It showed its age.
I think it's a great idea.
We like to hear that. A shipping container will actually look better than that, than that thing sitting there now.
Sure, they got plenty of room, plenty of space, I don't see a problem with that.
So, and then it was discussed that possibly getting 2 shipping containers instead of just that one white one next to the pole building. But as far as I know, it would be around that pole building that's currently out there, those
Would
containers.
they paint it white to blend in with all the other
We
buildings
can-
out there?
We can paint it any way you want.
Yeah, just,
I'm the one that gets stuck painting everything.
I mean,
I
they
don't know
come
how
in
that works,
creams.
but I paint that fence out just about every year.
You might be able to get white ones. I know that the one that was sitting out there was cream colored, and I don't have any objections to that. It's pretty close to white. I mean,
But here's the problem, is that Stephanie, is that on city land?
Well, here's the deal, yeah, so that's what I was gonna finish saying, is, so it's zoned for park and open space, which, it's not city land, but it's zoned for park and open space, which I think, if I'm correct, the only people that have park and open space land is the rodeo association in the city, right?
Correct.
So if we
It's a
allowed,
good- It's a good designation
Yeah.
for allowing special events or things to happen. that are
Sure.
unique to
But
these
that's
kind
this
of
big
things.
special event that happens there for that purpose.
right, and so currently, I mean, there are containers there now, but currently, that's not allowed in that zoning district. But like I said, the only people that have it are the rodeo association and the city, so, you know, I mean, and the rodeo association they do have an alternative if we didn't allow this, but because they have the bus garage lot that is industrial, and they could put it there, but it would not be as.
It's not it'd be an accessory use. Or outdoor storage is allowed as an accessory use.
Oh, not as
So
a,
it's not it can't be
Well,
the primary use,
if the primary use is parking,
but it's not paved for parking. So I think our best bet, to give you our best option that I think I would recommend as the zoning administrator would be to update our parks and open space overlay district to finally allow for outdoor storage. It's currently grandfathered in. I'm sure it's been there since
I think we have
before.
some even actually at the community garden too, don't we? Is there a storage?
We have a storage shed
Is it just
there.
a,
Right.
Just
okay,
a little garden shed.
okay, is that all it is? Okay.
still, storage. Yeah, what's the
Yeah.
difference? That's the way I look at it.
So, but not outdoor storage, I guess, specifically. But yeah, so we could add outdoor storage, or we could make it really specific for what we need to make it for whatever you guys want to say, and we could update this ordinance. I think that's our best bet, instead of opening a can of worms to start allowing our empty lots. Because we have had data centers before request to construct a data center with with storage containers just on an industrial lot before within the city, and then they don't pay any taxes on that, which is not a great use of our,
I'd recommend, let's look at a way to get it so they can get that
Yeah, figure-
container there and work
Yep.
with them. It's the rodeo, it's the fire department. We are part of that fire department, even though you're putting that stipulation as rodeo association, that's part of the fire department, which we are part of the fire district. So I think it's our best interest to work with them as much and best we can. So I think we should look at the best way to make it happen so they can do it.
we do have one item under accessory uses that says other uses accessory and incidental to parks, open space, and recreation. Already in the ordinance, so if we want to consider that.
You think we could?
Storage,
Think we could? You're the one that knows
I would
this.
say.
Is there anywhere in there that says you cannot? 'Cause I-
No, there's
It
no,
would-
no
okay.
to it, so I think as long as
planted there
it
tomorrow,
doesn't become like
we gotta get it with the
57
council
storage
first, we have to
containers
vote on it.
there, we won't have an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if we're looking at, I don't think so, because it's just a permitted accessory use, so I think since it's been happening, I think that's a good caveat for us just to leave it under that as well. If
As far as
you're
I'm concerned, I'd
okay
let
with
them do
that,
it.
because I think other uses accessory and incidental to parks, open space and recreation, the storage part is part of that in my mind, but I don't know. It's open to interpretation.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're gonna spend,
$8,000.
yeah, it's, well, 6 or something, but yeah, but do they wanna spend that just on an interpretation and, you know, if another council comes and gets upset? But I mean, they already have the stuff there, so I mean, if it,
Can't see
I think
another
our-
council.
Here's how I'd approach it.
Long-term.
I think we should well, we can't take action on it in the community whole, but good faith saying they can, but we have to wait till next council meeting to vote on it.
We could always just have, a resolution that states it clearly and says we deem up to blah, 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 storage containers on the rodeo grounds as being an accessory.
sure.
An incidental use to parks, open space, and recreation.
And then we don't have to change the ordinance.
Right,
Yeah,
let's do that.
Let's do that.
that sounds
That
perfect.
might be a better
Yeah, then it's
option
in
at this
writing
time,
and it's,
in
yeah,
writing, and it's not opening a can of worms
yeah.
for.
Not to say that somebody couldn't change it, but they would have to actually change it then, so, yeah.
Chances are they probably wouldn't.
No,
And that way, if it is abused, because some rogue rodeo board is storing 75 storage containers there, it allows, you to come through and say, no, it's not a use.
I don't think our parking crew would
yeah, I was gonna say,
appreciate
that would never
that.
happen with the parking crew, there'd be issues. Okay, well, yeah, that sounds good, so you guys are on board with the resolution,
Yep.
clarify that, okay. So, yeah, that'd be great if we can get that put out there. Anything else you guys have for discussion? We got another 2 hours and 15,
Yeah,
Crazy motion
we're gonna,
to.
we're gonna have to sit here and talk, guys.
It
This
it
is
is
weird.
okay to go early.
No, motion to adjourn. I think Mr. Heeman already did that. I'll second that.
I have a motion to adjourn from Councilman Heeman and a second from Councilman Lundin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned.